tonight. I'm Christy Lemire from rehearsals and the Breakfast All Day YouTube channel and podcast, and you just saw the best film of the year. We have some folks from the movie here. Do you want to meet them? He literally just got here. His name is Mark Ruffalo. Come on out. We introduce you to Miss Emma Stone. Hi, thank you so much for being here. It's a crazy time where every night is a new Q&A. Hi, see you all. So Emma, the first time you read this script and you met Bella Baxter, what did you think about her? What about her crying out to you?
Oh, it was before I read the script. It was after we shot The Favorite, Yorgos told me about this, and it's based on an incredible novel by Alistair Gray. And so I met Bella Baxter earlier, and then about 2 years later I read the script. And everything about her from the beginning of hearing about the character and what she's experiencing and how it's all this is really echoey. Let me hear your voice on a voicemail. That's what I sound. Shit. It was just everything about her. The idea that you could start anew and experience everything for the first time, and go really far in one direction and then decide that you are done with that and move on and teach yourself all of this, especially as a woman. It was really inspiring to me.
As a producer, why was it important to you to tell this story?
I think for all of the reasons that I just mentioned, and having worked with Yorgos before, it felt like he and I had a friendship and a kinship where we were able to talk about everything, and I wanted to be privy to all parts of the building of the world of Poor Things, and because it was 4.5 years from when we first spoke about it to when we made it, it was really important to just to know everything that was going on, to be able to weigh in and be a voice for it, and so I guess all the reasons I just mentioned. Yeah.
And I understand that you and Yorgos, it is echoey, right? You and Yorgos approached Mark about playing this role. What was it about Mark that told you he could do this, he'd be perfect for this role?
Mark, what is it about you? What do you say are your qualities that make sense for this role? Just the top 10. 5. Do I have to hand you mine? Wait, give me your mic.
I was waiting for the mic.
I feel like the better question is, Mark, how did you feel when approached for this role? Maybe I should ask you that instead of what qualities do you think? Sorry for hijacking.
I think you got the wrong guy. Was the first thing that came to my mind. Shouldn't I be reading for Max? Yeah, I really didn't see myself as part of it. Totally honest. And I said that to Yorgos, and then he said, you're him. And that was the end of that discussion. Pretty much. Do you remember it like that?
I don't remember but that might have been a wrong one. No, I think with Mark, when we were talking about who would be, I'm just going to push back a little bit. Okay, sorry, we're really adjusting a lot of things. That I can agree with.
I don't have a footstep.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I keep going to put up there.
Okay, that's right.
How does that look?
Really good. Surprisingly good. I think, well, first of all, Mark is such an unbelievable actor, as we all know. I've been lately, lately in love with him for a long time. Ever seen You Can Count on Me? Met all the room, and they're going through all the stuff, and you see eye pressure, and I was like, oh yeah, Turkey, whatever. They're kind of on again, like plays, he's incredible. And everything, not everything, but a lot of what I've seen him do was like very earthy and, grounded. And then reading Duncan, I think we were just thinking like, can you imagine if this empathetic, lovable heart of a man were to play this deeply narcissistic, toxic male? And he was like constantly, going through all of this, and how layered and complicated that would make the character, because you just love him even though he's such a buffoon. And then Mark was like, that's a bad idea. And then Yorgos was like, no, it's not. And you're like, okay. And so every day was kind of like a flip between him going, this is terrible, it's so bad, what am I doing? And then it's like rolling, he's like, hello! Like, it was so crazy to watch the dichotomy of like, he's like one extreme to the other extreme, the whole time so committed and so good, but then he's like, no, why am I doing this? And it was incredible. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, it was obvious, it had to be Mark.
That didn't happen.
Which part? It's all based on a true story.
That's the hope-changing part, right? The back and forth, that's what I think. But Mark, because there is this lovely, sweet side to you, it makes us not totally hate Duncan, right? So how did you tap into that to not make us think he was a deplorable, toxic buffoon?
He's a really nice guy. He's got a heart of gold. Honestly, I don't know what I did. All I know is that when she tells him that she's already engaged to Max Mechanicus, that breaks him in two. And he just never really recovers that. It's a straight comment after that. And that was just a total accident that we came to know what that was going to be, because we never talked about the part. We never talked about the script. Right? I mean, you did, I didn't. And if I tried, it was like, no. So we sort of we're just feeling our way through, literally and figuratively. Not figuratively.
That's been so fun and so freeing compared to everything you had done prior to this. Like, what thing did it trigger in you that was like exciting to tap into?
Everything that I want to do, but I can't. It's just a kind of just reckless, disastrous, pulling the ship as close as you can to the reef without actually wrecking it on the reef. Just being as kind of self-destructive as I possibly could as an actor, and destroy anyone's thought of what Mark Ruffalo was before, was the motivating and animating factor behind the whole thing.
That's exciting.
It was a blast.
What you're both doing is kind of like pulling the boat too close to the reef. But what you're doing as well, Rem, is so raw and so exciting and so distinct from one stage to the next as far as Elle's evolution. So what was the most challenging of all of those stages for you?
The beginning. The beginning was the most challenging. I think having sat with the idea of the character for so long, having talked about all the aspects for so long, and then actually starting day one, I think how many people in this audience are actors? Oh, shit, okay. So you know at the beginning of something, when it's like the first day of school and then you're gonna start and you're like, okay, great, like I'm psyched up, and then you actually start and you're like, that's what I meant to do. You know, there's just this idea in your head, and then when you actually have to externalize it, at least for me, maybe everyone raised their hands has never felt this way, and I salute you if you haven't. But I think like the first couple days or a week of doing something, playing a part, it's excruciating no matter what, because you're spending your sea legs, and it's just never going to match up to what you have in your mind. And then you have to be in a state of constant acceptance that you're still human and you're not a robot and you can't do it perfectly. And that's the good thing about being an actor, is there isn't perfect. It's cool that we're not Olympians and that you can't measure it. Even though they keep acting like you can measure this, or you can like say one person is do better at it than another, which is just impossible because everyone's so specific and different, and another person would play this part totally differently and probably way better, but what's better? I don't know. Anyway, this is the meltdown I've been having on a nightly basis. That was the hardest part at the beginning, because it's such a primitive state, and it sets her off on the course of the rest of it. And we had marked it out in stages. We had turned it into like 5 stages, Yorgos and I, in delineating her progress. And it was only at the beginning that we were shooting chronologically, so we shot the beginning and the end, and then we shot the middle all after that. So it was like, all right, let's figure out where she starts and where she ends up, and then we're going to figure out the middle as we go. And I think, I kind of tortured myself for that first part of it.
Those are extremes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's so primitive at the start and so incredibly eloquent by the end.
Yeah.
So was it just whiplash for you to have to make that giant shift and not do it gradually?
Kind of. I mean, we had worked on it, we had rehearsed it, we had sort of figured out how she walks, how she talks, what the dialogue was with Tony, and working out all of that. And the script was so beautifully written that it was like you could figure out the way her speech is evolving, but her, I don't know, internal sort of stuff. It was an interesting thing to jump between those two without knowing yet in actual practice.
And Duncan balls too.
No, I mean D-balls. No offense.
Yes.
But it's fascinating. I mean, this is kind of watched it. Like, he begins to adopt her language, right? He's so swaggering and so confident, so sure of himself, and then he's like needy about the furious jumping, right? And then that's fascinating to me how that dynamic shifts. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, everything about something is kind of this projection or some manufactured idea of what he thinks a man should be, or I'm free and I'm in a free love and I'm, these petty bourgeois. He sees him as this libertarian, but what he really is just a super conventional, totally insecure, vulnerable baby man. And And once he finally, I think, really is confronted with love, it all just falls apart. And all of his bravado, all of this masculine macho stuff is really just covering the most terrified, broken, hungry, desperate, and sad person. Sound familiar? Ooh. Never mind.
Let's talk about the dance scene. So fun. Right? So fun. It's a little microcosm of their relationship and of how everyone regards Bella, right? They're all like, John, how fiery she is. And everybody jump after her and control her and put her in a cage. I want to hear about choreographing it and blocking it out and what shooting that section was like.
Constanza McCrass, who did the choreography on Favorite between Rachel Weisz and Joe Allen in that scene, Keenan came to Budapest, we were shooting, and brought dancers with her, and we rehearsed and came up with all of these moves, and Yorgos would kind of watch and be like, oh, yes, no, whatever, or what would feel right to us, like would she be feeling this way at this point in the story, or how would he come into it and all of that. So we rehearsed it quite a lot for a very long time for how crazy that scene looks. You would think it would be a little more refined. That's not the characters. But yeah, no, that was a blast. Did you have fun with that?
A little. When we were doing it, it was the most fun ever, but learning it was very difficult for me.
Why?
It wasn't? You're told me I was a terrible dancer. But that's why I was so good. You're a terrible dancer. Oh, but that's why you're so good.
It's all impulse.
It's like a Zen Cohen. It's like one hand clapping. I get it. Yeah. It was, it's their whole relationship, really, in physicalized performance. And it was so much fun. And it was so crazy. And, we do the dance moves, but at the end of the day, how those characters really behave is what we've already been working on for so long. And so the dance was really an extension of them, but also what we brought to it in that moment. So it does feel very spontaneous. It does feel improvisational, because we were just playing the relationship at that point. We weren't really thinking about the dancing when we were just playing the relationships. And then it devolves into this fight. We didn't know what that fight was going to be. It was like, you jump on him, and you get on that guy, and then you guys will end up here, and then a bunch of background people are going to run in and try to pull you away, and then at some point you guys got to run off, and that was basically how we blocked that scene. And it was just chaos. And it was a live shot. We did it in one take, and it's like, we probably did it twice. Never mind.
No, I was just going to say, there is one point where Ramy, remember, he said, because Yorgos doesn't shot list. Yorgos and Ramy, Ryan, and RTP, they don't shot list. So like at the beginning of the day, they're sort of like, all right, maybe we'll go here, and then we'll figure this out from here, which is kind of amazing for how visual and how, composed everything is, that they don't shot this. So at one point, Yorgos is like, all right, Robbie, let's just get it. Like with a handheld, but it's a fisheye handheld. And I came to Robbie, and they kept it in the movie.
I remember.
When I got on the guy's back, Robbie's like, ooh, here I go. I'm like, accidentally kicked Robbie, and they're like, let's keep it in. So it was more than one shot, and I did accidentally kick the camera. That's fun. It's part of the kerfuffle. Magic movie. Wow. That's where I really
Cinema. Yeah, they love
Yeah.
that one.
That's a good,
Killed it with that.
I'll use that in the future. Thanks so much. That's my type 5.
You guys have to go with all this. Like, this world is wondrous. Every detail is so specific and so wild. How did all the production design help you guys get into character and tell the story?
Really good at this.
Mark, stop earmuffs. Oh my god. The production, James and Shona, our production designers, had never worked together before. And they were sort of like thrust together in this experiment of two production designers working in tandem. And the world that they created was so unbelievable. All of it, I would say 95% of this film is on sound stages that were built, with the exception of, there's one outdoor scene where God and Max take Bella to see the outside world, and then Lisbon was built inside, or the Lisbon dance scene was built inside the sound stage. Other than that, everything was built. And it was just like a true wonder to behold. It felt like it looks on screen. It was larger than life and so detailed and just beautiful. And for me, you know, playing Bella, to walk through all of these environments and see them in that way, because it does feel to me like it is how Bella sees the world. You know, it's obviously not the world as it is, although none of this is the world as it is. The whole thing is not the camera. So, you know, it was all very fantastical from the beginning, but it was so incredible to look at all of this through that lens, and it was beautiful. Do you want to add anything to that?
I thought you did. You nailed that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
See? Right? Smattering of applause.
Tap in.
Mercy applause.
A rescue.
I want to talk about costumes though, but I want to get into that.
Oh, I can talk about costumes. Oh my God.
Like we talk about like nothing wears too.
I had, first of all, costumes were pretty amazing, but that was a big part. So we were rehearsing, and then we leave rehearsal and go to the costume training and then come back. We had 3 weeks of rehearsal. And never did we talk about the script or the characters. We just played theater games for 3 weeks. Right? We did interpretive dancing in flat, slow motion and fast motion, both forward and backward. We wrestled, we sang, we wrestled, we danced, and we rolled around on the ground. And it was the most informative rehearsal process I've ever been through in my life. But while we were doing that, we were cutting away to go to these costume fittings. And those costume fittings started to tell you everything you needed to know about the character. And it was very collaborative. So Holly, who had also never done a movie. Oh, she had? She told me she had written a movie.
Holly?
Was she saying that to me?
Stop recording. Stop recording.
Wrong movie.
Getting confused.
I got confused. She seemed like she never done a movie. Only the best way. She was very fresh. What we were doing, we were. I'm just destroying this. I've been doing this for like 20 hours today.
Keep going. You can start recording again.
Thank you. These costumes were sort of telling you everything, and they were so beautiful, and we were able to collaborate during the whole thing. So at some point, it's like, I think I want to wear a corset. Do you want to wear a corset? Great. We'll get you a corset. Do you want to wear it? I want to wear it all the time. I think whenever he takes his clothes off, you should see his corset. He was very cares about his figure. And then like, well, how about some butt pads too? And then how about some calf pads? And then how about some thigh pads? And all of a sudden, you know, this very bottom heavy character started to come. But that's how we were working. And Yorgos was, it's so strange because he's such a strong director, but at the same time, all he really tells you is, you're disappointing me. And then they come back and we do the costumer freak out for a minute, and then she come back and he's like, I like that. But during the course of that, we were really, everyone was sort of using everything they knew in their imagination and their creativity and their talent to sort of rise up to his vision for it. And so the costumes were this kind of fantastical imagination from Holly, based on what she thought she wanted from Yorgos. But really, what he does so beautifully is he allows his heads and his keys and his artists to really take it upon themselves to be as great as they can possibly be. And that's the magic of Yorgos Lanthimos, you know? And it's a strange space because he's not letting you do whatever you want, but he's calling to you to do the greatest you are capable of doing. Right?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Save that.
Yeah, that part, upload that. You got it? Okay, good. He's got it. Okay, good. I didn't give up.
Everything Bella was so possibly chic. Like, you must have loved every scene, every moment for that.
Well, one of the most beautiful, early on, I went to meet Holly a couple months before we even started rehearsals, and we were just doing like a play around, and I had seen, you know, the boards and ideas and things that she had made, you know, beforehand, and the way she was describing like the fabrics and the shapes, the fabrics were things that reminded her of organs or, you know, things that would be in Baxter's house, and the colors were off in some ways, and the way that Bella's costumes evolve, you know, whether they're silk and padded and white, and she's at home, but it's like she's going to get them messy, and Mrs. Prim is dressing her, and then when she moves into Lisbon, she's dressing herself, and so she's wearing these knickers, but she has them in a few different colors, and she's learning how, everything was so meticulous and so inventive, and just completely from her mind. It was all Holly's mind, and like the descriptors behind all of it, the condom cave in Paris where it's latex and she's, you know, going to the brothel for the first time. And like everything was, it was super, super genius. I think she's a genius, I really do. And yes, to his point about Yorgos, one of the amazing things about him as a director, that every department head is hired. He wants to work with them because he wants to see what they want to create, because he's inspired by them and he wants to see what they're going to do. And I think she just absolutely blew everyone away.
We'll bring David and we'll bring a few questions that I get from you. What was the most fun day on set?
The dance was pretty funny, even though we were exhausted, because we did, well, it was 2 days, and we did it like 150,000 times, I think.
Yeah.
150,000. But that was really, really fun.
That was fun.
What about you?
That was a blast. I thought that whole sequence where you come in and you give the money away.
Oh, yeah.
And then I try to throw her overboard.
The shit.
The shit stuff was pretty fun. Throwing her overboard. I had 105 fever.
It was not 105. Mark,
It felt like that.
Mark had a
I
fever.
can't tell any of my own stories.
You can, but you have to tell them honestly, Mark. You had like 99.6. And you were like, look, I got a fever. It's like, it's 99.6. And you're like, that's basically a million.
Mark, was it 99.6?
It was 99.8.
Oh, okay. I'll give it to him.
But I was dying. Anyway, I was sick. I was miserable.
105. You've been to the hospital for that.
102.
No, 99.6.
99.7. Anyway, I was a real pro. That was the one Yorgos that came up to me at the end of that day and said, I'm proud of you. And one little tear fell. And I hugged him. And he's like, no, go home and go to sleep.
In the midst of your hallucination from your 110 degrees. That's all very cool.
We have like 3 questions. Let's do one right here.
Hi, I'm Meg. I'm going as Bella for Halloween now, by the way.
Yes.
More specifically, the physicality for both of you. How did you prepare? Because, you know, in the beginning, her development of being a toddler, how did you get into that, and how did you prepare? And even for yourself, Mark, something that could be so broad and big was so specific and honest. How did you guys find that?
For me, the toddler thing, I tried to, like watch some videos of toddlers talking, and we very quickly realized that was not the move. She's gaining 25 words a day, and her hair's growing an inch every 2 days. She's not a toddler. It's a metaphor. We realized very quickly. So it was much more staccato and kind of wind-up doll than child that we were thinking. And so as we were working out the physicality, it was that. It was sort of like, trying different ways of walking on my feet or different movements and then the way that evolves. And it was really just discovering a lot as we went to what felt kind of, hopefully more original and less, literal. Yeah, so it was just a lot of experimentation. Mark.
Thank you, Emma. So I
Your
think
fever was 105. I'm sorry. I know he's hurt by it.
no, I was just like, how am I going to go home and answer to this?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that my favorite acting style is one foot on a banana peel and the other in a grave. And so for me, it was trying to maintain that kind of splits and to see how far it could go up physically and be kind of push the limits, like I was saying. But at the same time, trying to keep one foot on the ground, in the grave, so to speak. And because of that rehearsal process and really getting to explore kind of the physical world, and some of the references that Yorgos was giving me, which were these dance companies, Pioneer Walsh and Peeping Tom Dance Company, Belgian dance company, I got an idea of how far I could take that physically, but also just didn't want it to go over the edge, but wanted to see how far I could. And it goes over the edge in some places, but we pull it back, relatively quickly. So yeah,
Cool.
that was the plan. Anyway.
Let's get in the back. Really far in the back. Who in the back has a question? Really? Okay, we'll come closer. You, red hair right here. Yes, you.
Okay, first of all, this is the second time I saw it. Loved it. I want to just say something about Willem Dafoe. It was amazing. And the bubbles coming out, I don't know if that was real. That's not my question though. Maybe you can comment on that. But really, both of you, I mean, especially you, Emma, you put yourself out there and you were completely open. How do you prepare for something like that? Being naked and just like full, just like everything.
Maybe make it as easy to prepare for as you just, you know.
You don't go to the gym.
Oh, yeah. No, Willem is, we love him very much, and he's just, as much as Mark was like the total opposite of Duncan, and not that Willem's not the opposite of Baxter, but he's like the most obvious choice ever. You read Baxter and you're like, it has to be Willem. You know, like it's not even like you're like, of course, who else is going to play this in this night? And he is so perfect and human in all of those prosthetics. Like what he's able to do in that character is beautiful, and the bubbles were VFX. That was one of the VFX moments. So they would just clap on set when the bubble popped, so we all react. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, no, in terms of the preparation or for putting yourself out there, I think for me, obviously never having done anything like this to this extent before, I guess everything is sort of, to me, in anything I've done in service to the character and what the character is going through and the way that the story is going to be told, and I loved the way that the story was told and was a big part of how the story was told. So for me, it was, I don't know, I guess it wasn't that challenging. Again, it's easy because you just all you do is. How did you feel?
I had a much harder time with it. I had my closet. I had done a couple sex scenes over the years. No, not. It's always kind of. It's much better if it's a comedy than if it's serious.
Oh God, I'm sure.
It's so much better. Yeah, having to do like serious sex scenes is just. I mean, you're actors, you've done it. It's not like that awesome. Maybe you should ask yourself why. It's so weird that the intimacy coordinator is like literally back there after you're doing a scene, like. Totally getting me too, but intimacy coordinator. Okay, I'm done.
He was amazing, right? But yes, it is.
Let's do one more. In the brown sweater, I go, yes, you.
I noticed that there's a lot of themes in the movie, and I picked up on a lot. I noticed that you sort of talked about it a bit, but I was just wondering what's like the main thing that you want to take away when they watch this movie?
That is a very good question, and one that, unfortunately, I do not have an answer to personally because, well, a couple things. There are a ton of themes in this movie. Oh, sorry, she was saying that there are a lot of themes in this movie. Tell me if I'm misrepeating this. There are a lot of themes in this movie, and she picked up on multiple, but was wondering what we wanted the audience, or we individually, or as a collective, wanted the audience to take away as like the major theme of this film. And it's a great question, and yes, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of themes within the book, and there's a lot of themes within the film. The film and the book have a good amount of differences in the way that it's presented, and which I think is typical a lot of the time for films that are adapted from books. But that's a hard question to answer instead of twofold. One is that because there are a lot of themes, there's lots of different lanes to it, so it would be hard to answer with one major one. Secondly, part of the sort of Yorgos world, if you've seen multiple films of his, is asking more questions than it answers. And one of the things that I think he really loves in his storytelling, and one of the reasons why I'm drawn to his storytelling, is that it sort of leaves it open-ended for the audience to have many different feelings about all of it, and none of them are wrong. It's like, some people are like, this part too much, fucking hate it. Some people are like, that part was the most meaningful to me. That part that they just said they hated. And everyone comes from different backgrounds and has different experiences, and all of it is valid and understandable. So I would be doing it a disservice, I think, to say what I hope you take away from it. But yes, there are a lot of things that this feels like I'm evading and deflecting, and
You did that really well. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
I totally agree. I mean, I've heard so many different takes on it, and that's kind of what I think is so great about it. And a good piece of art lets you bring yourself to it, doesn't dictate a feeling or tells you what you're supposed to take away from it, I think, and that's something that is really important to Yorgos, and I've heard him say that more than once, so I hope you guys each had a good experience.
You did it, that's okay too. That's fine. Thank you, very much. Thank you for coming.